can hear us right now. So if you could use the chat room that pops up on your screen in the lower left-hand corner, just to let us know if the sound is working, that would be great. Hello? This is, oh good, it looks like several people are, thank you, Diane, Sally, Lisa, and Andy. I hope the others are able to hear us as well. We're waiting for a few more participants to join, but welcome all of those who have joined us. Rob just sent a note through chat that if the sound isn't working on your computer, you can call another number. Want to make sure that everybody can hear. We're right at 11 o'clock now, so I might just start up since we have a lot of our participants already here, and welcome you all to our very first webinar, an introduction to the Community Energy Dashboard. Thank you so much for participating today. I know you're all busy people. And we want to give a special thanks to VCAN and in particular to Joey Miller, not only for helping us develop and bring this dashboard to you, but also for the use of their webinar system, which is new to us. So I'm going to throw a disclaimer out there right away that I hope you will forgive us if we're having any technical difficulties. We're working really hard to bring it to you and hope it goes smoothly today. My name is Linda McGinnis, and I am the Program Director for Energy Action Network, and I'm the lead staff for the Community Energy Dashboard. I am also thrilled to be joined today by two of my colleagues, the first of whom is Elise Serta, our Communications Manager, and Elise will be responsible for the chat room during the presentation. So wherever you see Vermont Natural Resources Council, it's actually Elise chatting with you, and she can keep track of your questions and comments as we move through. I'm also joined by Rob Fish, our new dashboard field coordinator, who we're thrilled to have on board, and he will be responsible for following up with each of your energy committees to ensure that you get the most out of the dashboard tools to serve your goals. So who you are, you and other members that are participating today have been selected to be part of the first 15 energy committees that we're working with targeted resources and targeted assistance to try and see how we can best use this dashboard to accelerate energy action on the ground. So thank you for being part of this first 15 group. As you know, this is the first in two parts of a webinar series. Part one, which is the introduction, and part two, which will be going more into detail on how you can get the most out of each of the separate tools on the dashboard. Just to double check that everybody understands what is on your screen, I will be having this pencil that you see moving around on the screen that I can point to different things with. You will have maximize button in the top right-hand corner that will allow you to open up presentations to fill your full screen. In the lower left-hand corner, you see where the chat room is. If you have any difficulties or questions, please feel free to continue with that chat, and as you can see, everybody will get to see what you're writing. The participants list is in the upper left-hand corner, I think with that, I will move to an overview of the agenda. That's on your page right now, and you can see that this introduction we want to keep to about 5 minutes. And then we'll do a brief overview on the background of the dashboard and the context in which it was developed, just for those of you who haven't been able to see that. And actually, before we get started, I'm going to switch to another page, which is a survey here, because we want to get a sense of how many people have actually seen a presentation already on the dashboard, how many of you have visited the dashboard website, and how many of you have registered. So if you wouldn't mind quickly just filling that in, it gives us a good sense of who has and who hasn't been exposed to the dashboard right now. So after this initial introduction, we'll do about 10 minutes of an overview. Then we'll do a live walkthrough of each of the tools, and just to make sure that in advance we're not going to be able to go into depth on any of them, but you'll get to see a broad brush overview of how they work. Then we'd like to explain to you how to register, because most of you have probably not registered. That's what it looks like right now. And then have time at the end for questions and answers. We will follow this up with a survey. If you have other suggestions or questions, we'll be sending you a SurveyMonkey afterwards, which you are not obliged to complete, but if you have any suggestions, they are always welcome. So this gives us a good sense of a little bit who's seen it and who hasn't. So I will move into an overview of the dashboard now, and we'll get started. So I'm going to open this up and, oops, here. So I'm being told I need to share my desktop, which I guess I have done. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to move to my presentation here. Which is not allowing me to do that. One second, sorry. There we go. All right, so before we get started, we wanted to give you a sense, because several of you had questions on where does the dashboard come from, who are our partners in this effort, and what are we going to be, who's been working with us on this. So we have had dozens of partners to help us develop this over the course of the last year, year and a half, but the principal collaborators in this effort have been the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Fund, the Vermont Energy Investment Corporation, and of course VCAN, who has helped us reach out to all of you. But we've had many, many other partners because so much of the data that underpins the dashboard comes from official sources. We're also very grateful for the funding support that we've received from VLIGHT, the U.S. Department of Energy, and the Public Service Department that you're all familiar with. So we also wanted to give you a sense of just who is Energy Action Network, who is bringing this to you, because it's important to understand what we do and how we work. So Energy Action Network is based on a network principle that it takes collective action across multiple different types of participants. So our members and partners are made up of business leaders, utilities, policymakers, nonprofit leaders, and educators, all with a common goal, which is a sustainable energy future for Vermont. And that is encompassed in what most of you are familiar with, which is the Comprehensive Energy Plan, which sets out a goal of reaching 90% of our energy needs through efficiency and renewables by 2050. But we also know that nothing is going to happen unless we get people to work from the ground up, and that's communities, and that's what you represent. So with the dashboard, we wanted to try and reach out to the broad definition of communities, which means municipalities and individual households, businesses, farms, and schools. And that's what the tools are intended to do. So in order to reach the community level, we started asking ourselves questions. So how do we translate this ambitious and lofty statewide goal to local action? And how do we make energy accessible to all Vermonters? And how can we get communities engaged in their energy future? As most of you know, the Comprehensive Energy Plan is intended for both individuals and the state to save money, to keep energy rates predictable and low, to build our energy independence, to keep energy dollars local, to create jobs, and to reduce our carbon footprint. So I was just being told to keep my cursor down to the side so you don't see it in the middle of my presentation. But it also requires that we work across all three energy sectors, because a lot of times when we talk about energy, people think that it's only electricity, when in fact it's heat, transportation, and electricity, and oftentimes transportation is the biggest elephant in the room. But what it means at the most basic is that we need to use less through conservation and efficiency, and all of what we then use after applying the conservation and efficiency principles, we need to make that 90% renewable. That's sort of the bottom line that underpins all of the discussion around the Comprehensive Energy Plan. So we asked ourselves at the local level, how do we get people to act? How do we get behaviors to change? And I know this is something that each of you is working at the local level. A number of people feel that they can make things happen with data, and they're really interested in understanding and tracking the data that underpins our energy transition. Others are saying data is not really as important to me as learning from people that I trust, is understanding the stories that are out there and having neighbors understand from neighbors, because we know from behavioral science that behaviors do change once you learn from somebody that you trust. And then, of course, all of us learn by doing. And so what we try to do in the dashboard is incorporate all three of these types of learning, means of learning. So just what is the Community Energy Dashboard? It's this powerful website that can help your community understand energy, where you are now, where you need to go, and how you can get there through a variety of tools and resources. And I'm just pointing briefly up at the top at the different tabs that we'll be going through on the live website to show you just what we've tried to incorporate in this set of tools for communities. The way it helps communities is that it provides what we hope are simple, fun, and interactive online tools that help you set goals, track progress, map current and future actions, share stories, and learn from your neighbors across all three of the major energy sectors over which efficiency is included within all of them. So why was it developed? We heard from many, many towns through VCAN and Vital Communities and other partners that Vermonters are asking for concrete ways to make these choices at the local level. And how to accelerate these actions, we all know that it's through collective action that we need to do it, so local people needed to have more transparent access to this information. Who should use the dashboard? We're starting out with you who are energy committees, but the dashboard is designed for any individual, business, farm, school, community to be able to enter and find data, enter action, share stories, etc. So it's just about anybody. The timeline, we just made it live, yay, in August, and we're working with the first 15 towns, which is you and several others who are going to be joining us in the next webinar. And then many of you know and will be participating in the VCAN conference in December, and we'll be reaching out to other towns at that point after we've learned from your experience. So what are the 7 broad dashboard tools? This is just a quick overview to give you a sense of what it includes. We have a timeline that is focused on the community level that tells you what your current energy use is across those 3 sectors and what it's going to take for you to get to 90 by 2050 at your community level. We have statistics that are drawn from official sources on all renewable energy generation sites, their nameplate capacity, et cetera, et cetera. I'll go through that and what is being generated on an annual basis. We have actions that can be crowdsourced and entered by any one of you, and will be shown. It will show what the collective impact of those actions are at the local level. We have analyses because many of you know that you're doing some really great project work and analysis work in your energy committees, and other energy committees could really, really learn from your experience, and you can learn from what others are doing. So this is a place where you can keep those analyses and share projects. A core part of the dashboard is its ability to share stories at the local level. As many of you know, there are all kinds of stories that are available statewide in Vermont, but it's difficult to find out what those stories are from your neighbors, from where you shop, from other people in your own community. So we have an ability to share stories at the local level. The mapping tool is perhaps one of the most fully developed and sophisticated of the tools that are here, and I'll go through that with you. But basically it shows you where all the renewable energy sites are in your community, and gives very specific details on that, but also allows you to begin to identify potential sites going forward with a number of layers that I'll go through with you. And then finally, we have a resources section that's to help you determine what are the next steps and what are the incentives out there, the financial resources and other technical assistance resources that can help you step through next steps. So the idea about the Community Energy Dashboard with respect to town energy committees is that it's a place for ideas, it's a place to help you check off the things that you're doing in your energy actions and your planning. It's a place where you have free and open access to data that hasn't ever before been made available at the local level. You have the possibility of creating your own maps and determining some siting issues at the local level. You have the possibility of just sharing and spreading the word around and inspiring action, and especially tracking the progress as you move forward. So before we finish, I want to really put an emphasis on what we are and what we aren't, because it's important to keep expectations at a reasonable level So what it is it's free. It's free and transparent and available to every single town in Vermont. But what it's not is that it's not perfect. This is a start, and we're looking forward to hearing feedback from you to ensure that it can become as effective a tool as possible going forward. It's not trying to sell you something. The data that is in it is official data that's updated regularly and sourced from utilities, Efficiency Vermont, the Department of Public Service, et cetera. But it's important to know that it's not a source of exact town data across all sectors. We have the best available data out there. Electricity is quite accurate. Heat and transportation are less so, and that's just because that's what data is at the state level. We have information on potential renewable energy sites going forward, but it is not a definitive indicator of those renewable energy sites. It is a first step in helping you look at those going forward. It's also a means to help you reach your Energy Committee goals, but it is not a blueprint for your community's path to 90 by 2050, because ultimately that's up to each and every one of your communities. So we just want to make sure that you understand both what we are and what we aren't with the Community Energy Dashboard, and we hope to make it better with each step going forward. So I want to end that overview with a special thanks again to VCAN and Vital Communities, who are our community outreach partners, because they have been amazing all the way through, and we hope to continue working in partnership with them as we go forward. And now what I'd like to do is go directly to a walkthrough of the Community Energy Dashboard as a site. And I want to make sure that I'm getting up to the top. There we go. So this is the dashboard homepage. And what most of you will see when you get on that homepage is this new to the dashboard, register today, as we really encourage you to register today. But what we'll be flipping through are these energy stories. That we will be switching out the energy stories on a regular basis. We have a number of them, actually well over 100 stories that have already been contributed by many of your committees and many other communities around Vermont. We have at the bottom here, you'll see recent energy actions, and I will walk you through how you can enter your own energy actions, but you can see as we click through, these are different people who are already starting to enter their own actions, either at the municipal level or the residential level or the personal level. And you can see that there's a number of individuals who have already started to enter their actions there. So that's the home page. If we go to the About page, and I just want to make sure that you see up at the top that the navigation tools are the tabs that are up at the top here. The About page goes through most of what I just went over with you. But a really important part to note here is that if you want a detailed instruction on how to use the dashboard, you click on that particular download, and up will come a user guide for you to be able to use the dashboard. And that's here on the About page, and it's also on the registration instructions if you want the full walkthrough and details that you can carry with you if you're working with other people. Moving onward, the core of the dashboard for your community is this My Community tab. And if you go into My Community, I serve on my own energy committee, which is in South Burlington, so I'm going to use that as an example, but you will go in and you would click on your town either through the map or through this Select by List. If you go Select by List, you can start typing. I'll start typing South Burlington. I'll click on that, and what pops up is what we're calling the progress timeline. Now the progress timeline shows you, with the official data that we've worked on with utilities and Efficiency Vermont, a baseline year of 2014 of where you are in terms of your energy use. What is the share of renewable energy in your use? What is the total energy? And what happens if you're doing business as usual going forward to 2050, with the goal of trying to get to 90% by 2050. To get to 90% by 2050, you can see that about a third of what we're going to all need to do is through efficiency. The line going upward is a renewable energy line, and the line going downward is the non-renewable fossil fuel energy line. And in each year, we will be obtaining official data to give you a different point to show where you are on that line going forward. I want to just highlight one thing here. We won't go into details here, but if you see below, there's these pie charts that break down that renewable energy and non-renewable energy into heat, electricity, and transportation. It shows you in the yellow triangle what is renewable, and in the brown triangle, the brown rest of the pie, what is non-renewable. And if you click on a year up above, let's say 2045, watch what happens to the pie charts. I click on those, and that's basically what's going to happen in each of those sectors as we move towards more renewable energy in those sectors. And the total is over here on the right. You can download any of these if you want to use them in presentations. We have an explanation of why we're using MMBTUs and what MMBTUs are. It's so that we can compare energy use across the different sectors. So I'm not going to spend more time on that right now, except for one final thing, which is that if you want to understand what the data methodology is on this page, you can download this material at the bottom. As Energy Committee members, you will be given special access to the data that underpins all of this, which is quite elaborate, and I'll go through that at the end when we show you what registration will require of Energy Committee members. So beyond the progress page, we go to the statistics page. And the statistics page gives you in your town, so you see that this is renewable energy and efficiency sites in South Burlington. It tells you exactly how many renewable energy sites you have. So for example, in South Burlington, we have 178 solar sites. Of those, it's divided up into the different types of sites and tells you what the total electric capacity is of those sites, what the annual electricity generation is, and what your rank in Vermont on a per capita basis is for each of these. It goes into solar, wind, hydro, and biomass as the renewable energy generation sites. This is based on Certificate of Public Good information, and will be updated on a quarterly basis from the materials that we're getting from the Public Service Department. For efficiency and heat pump, which a lot of people are really interested in, this is not public data. And so this has to be crowdsourced by individuals, and we're working with Efficiency Vermont to see if there's a way we could at least get at the collective level that information to be included here. So for now, the efficiency sites are crowdsourced and all the renewable energy is officially sourced. If you want to see any of this on the atlas, for example, let's look at the 2 wind sites in South Burlington. I go over here to the View on Atlas clickable thing, and I click on it, and it takes us to the Energy Atlas, which I will show you a little bit more of later. But basically, it shows me in South Burlington where the 2 wind sites are. If I click on any pin, it gives me detail about that particular site. It shows me where it is, who installed it, what its capacity is, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to go back to the My Community section again and go back up to the top. You'll see that we have sort of base information of what population and area is there. But I'm going to move from statistics to actions. If we go into the actions section, it will show you all the actions that have been entered, and this is crowdsourced, by your community members in your particular town. So you can see I just added one this morning with my husband that we had added an efficient wood stove insert, and you can add comments to it. There's Karen McKinney, who added a bunch, Sam Swanson, and then our South Burlington Energy Committee began entering things just this last week of a number of things that they have done over the past couple of years. So this is where you see all the actions for your town. If you want to just see what the electricity actions are, you can go in and say, okay, among electricity actions, these are the ones that people are starting to enter right now. Everything that's in gray is what people haven't entered. So that's what you can see in a given town. Now the key to this is that you need to add actions. So to add an action, which is up at the top there, I need to log in, and somehow I need to get to the top of the page here. I'm going to log in as an individual. You will need to register before you can log in, obviously, but I'm going to log in, and then I'm going to go to the actions page on My Community, and I'm going to add an action. So I can go to South Burlington. Oops, that was Burlington. Sorry about that. Go to South Burlington. And then I want to go to the actions, and I'm going to add a new action just to show you what you need to go through. So when I add an action, I'm going to go in and get mine and my husband's name. I'm going to say I did some weatherization, for example. So I'm going to go and say, was it in heat? It was heat a heat action because I'm weatherizing my house. I was saving heat. That's the impact that I had. I go into weatherization as a category, and I have a number of selections down below on what you could have done under weatherization. Let's say I installed programmable thermostats, and I did it, let's say, last month. So I go over to the date, and I say, it helped us not have to think about turning down our thermostat. Something along those lines, and I submit. Once I submit it, I can look at my action in South Burlington, and it will be added to the number of actions that are there. But if you want to go and look statewide or a different community, you can do that in the actions. I won't spend any more time there because we'll go through it in more depth in the next webinar, but I just wanted to give you a sense of what that is. The analysis page is an important page for energy committees. This is where you're going to be able to upload information that you'd like to keep track of, because as many of you know, energy committees often change. It's volunteers, and transferring that information from one group to another or across energy committees can sometimes be difficult. So here's a place to keep a lot of your key analyses or projects that you'd like to have. We just have one here that we entered for South Burlington, which tells us what our electricity consumption and savings have been over the past 5 years. We also have some information on how many customers have been served with efficiency programs over the past 5 years, and it just helps us keep track of some of these bigger issues that we're trying to track at the local level. But it also, we have the possibility of having a full report be uploaded as a PDF for each one of these images. So this is a place where energy committees can keep a lot of their analyses, data, and maps, et cetera, that they've created for yourself. And then finally, the stories is one that's a fun one, because basically it's what's happening in your community. It's the people from your neighborhood. So these are the stories that have been entered in South Burlington. And if you see over here on the left, you'll see that you have a number of categories that you can search by. So let's say I want to know what faith-based institutions have done energy work in South Burlington. I click on that, and up pops a whole project that Ascension Lutheran Church has done. And if you click into it, it gives you a lot of details on what they've done, the lessons that they've learned, the keys to success, and any of you can be contributing these stories at any time, and we will be able to post these. We've had literally dozens and dozens of stories all around Vermont that have been contributed already. These are all Vermont stories here. And there's been just dozens of terrific stories. But you can search by your community up here, so that if you go to, let's say, Montpelier, I go into Montpelier and select the community, then it starts showing you what some of the stories from Montpelier have been that have already been generated. And that's where we start getting into learning from our neighbors. So I'll stop with the My Community section and move on to 90 by 2050, because I think this is an important resource for many of you. On the 90 by 2050 tab, we have many of the absolute key pieces of official resources that you will be interested in if you're needing to explain any of the energy projections or plans going forward at the state level or at the regional level. So here we have some information that comes from Energy Action Network. We have Energy Atlas stats that we've pulled together for you that show, for example, county by county where renewable electricity sites are. We have, if we go up here to the Department of Public Service, you have the Comprehensive Energy Plan. And we have some of the key elements of the Comprehensive Energy Plan up here, but also the ability to download the entire plan here. We have with Efficiency Vermont, there's a number of year in review types of statistics that are really important for you to have at your disposal. You can also download these for printing and sharing. Those of you who may be interested in greenhouse gas emissions, we have the greenhouse gas inventory that tells us where we are and where we need to go, and where the source is and how you can download that information again for sharing. Regional planning commissions. This is where, as many of you know, your regional planning commissions are going through the development of energy plans. We have uploaded the first 3 that are in draft form right now, where you can go and see what the Regional Planning Commission energy plans are looking like. And we're collaborating with Jim Sullivan to ensure that you will get the most recent ones as they become available. The Vermont Energy Education Program, many of you work with schools, and they have terrific materials. Some of the stuff that we just recently downloaded from them are their brand new posters, which are being used in classrooms throughout Vermont with the Green Schools program that they have. So these are resources that you can, again, download and share and easily available here. And then finally, the community energy analyses. For every community that has uploaded analyses, they will be added to this, and you can go and find out what they're uploading and what the regional planning commissions are showing, are uploading as well. So, for example, in the Regional Planning Commission, we have some analyses here that are energy statistics that have been uploaded. Let me get into this. It sounds like we've had some of the downloads are difficult right now, so I'm going to go a little bit slower. I've just got a note that it's going too fast. I'm going to go back up to the 90 by 2050 site here. So that's basically a quick overview of what the resources are that we have currently available that are the broader state-level resources in the 90 by 2050 site. Now I'd like to move on to the Energy Atlas, and I will go a little bit more slowly here because there may be some download issues for, at least it's sounding like some of this is downloading a little bit more slowly for some of you who are watching. So in the Atlas, this is one that some of you have seen in its earlier iterations. A lot of comments were received on how to improve the Atlas, and we've tried to incorporate as many of them as possible. The way to use the Atlas is to go in and to select your location. So I'm again going to go in and select South Burlington because there's just one that, actually no, I can select anything here. So let me just select a random community here. Let's do Starksboro. And then select a category of what you want to view on that map. And let's say I want to see what all the roof-mounted solar is in Starksboro. And then I can go and I can have an enhanced search, which gives me a little bit more information. I can say I want to see all of the rooftop that is 1 to 15 kW and 15 to 150 kW. So that's what I'm looking at right now. And then I press search here. And as I press search, up will pop in Starksboro all of the sites that have rooftop solar. Okay, I can zoom in over here on the right in the legend and click on any one of these pins, and up pops who is hosting that site, who installed that site, where it exists, and what the capacity is, and what the CPG number is. This is all based on official CPGs. I'm clicking on several of these sites, and you can see in your community what those are. Now, another aspect of this that is harder to see right away, but is a powerful tool, is this layers. So if you're selecting solar, under the layers, if you click on this on the right, up pops solar radiation in your community, and this is the legend for that solar radiation. So it tells you what is the highest potential solar radiation in your community based on the most recent GIS information that's out there. But also you can click on layers that can show you what the environmental constraints might be. So let's click on deer habitat and see if something pops up in Starksboro. And I go back to the map and I'll see everything in brown is going to be deer habitat. Everything in the red and yellow is going to be high potential solar. So the red is the highest potential solar, the yellow is slightly less, but you can begin to see in your community where the highest potential solar is, or if you go back over here and you're curious about wind speed at different heights, or forest biomass, or where three-phase lines are, which is incredibly important for installing solar, you can click on any of those and it will show up on the map for you. So that's a quick overview of what the Atlas does. There's a whole lot more in terms of the drawing and the ability to download your image and This is actually important. I'm going to let you know this as well. If you want to have a spreadsheet that tells you what every site is in your community, you can go back to your community, let's say it's Starksboro, and click on whatever you're interested in. Let's say it's roof-mounted PV, come back here, and then you export that list of sites, and it will download it to your computer, and you can use that for your own purposes as well. This is a Reset Atlas button. It's just to go back to where, if you want to look at your Regional Planning Commission, it gives you the ability to select by Regional Planning Commission, and by your county, it gives you the ability to select by your county as well. Or you can look at the entire state of Vermont. But it's really intended specifically for the towns and being able to find out that information at the town level. And then finally, there's the resources page, at which we try and organize by different energy topic: efficiency, heat, electricity, transportation, financing, and planning. For your home, what are some of the resources? For your school, what are some of the resources? For your town, all of the rich resources that VCAN offers. We tried to organize it that way to lead people to the next steps on what they might be looking for in terms of energy actions at the local level. So I think I'm going to stop there for now and just go through one final action that we'd like you to be able to do. And for some reason, it's not showing at the top of my page quite so well. I'm wondering if I should do this. Yeah, I'm going to do this right now because it shows it more easily. I'm going to log out right now at the top of the page and just walk you through very briefly the registration. We are going to be asking all of the participating energy committees to have their members register as individuals, but also as an energy committee, so a community rep. We will be following up next week with all of the login information for you as an energy committee, because only when you enter as an energy committee will you be able to log the actions that your committee has undertaken so far, and we'd like to begin to see some of that happen. Once you are a community rep, which means you're part of either a town manager or an energy committee or an officially designated municipal organization, you would have special privileges. Those special privileges include access to the underlying data across the three sectors on the timeline, and the ability to upload analyses and projects for your community, the ability to add municipal actions, and the ability to keep track of those actions. And I just want to show you an example of if I log in as a South Burlington, because I'm part of the South Burlington Energy Committee. Let me show you here what happens. I can go in, it says, you see at the top it says Welcome Energy Committee Member from South Burlington. I can go in and look at what I and my colleagues have added as actions. So this is a place where we can keep track of when the actions were added, what was added, the dates at which it happened. So we created our South Burlington Energy Prize website in 2014. We formed our Town Energy Committee in 2008. This is just a place that we can keep track of the actions that we've done as an energy committee ourselves. So I wanted to just give you a sense. This is also where, if you are an individual, up in the My Account in the upper right-hand corner, as an individual, I'll log out and sign in as me again, and you'll see I log in as an individual, so my husband and myself. I go up here again to My Account, and up pops the actions that we have taken as individuals. So I am going to stop there because I know you probably have a lot of questions, and see if we can move on to the questions. Thank you for listening. That was a lot of information, and I apologize for how fast it was. I did want to give you a quick overview, so there it is. I'm going to ask Elise to curate some of the questions, so she'll be letting me know what those are, and then I'm going to bring up a page here of dates to remember so that you're aware of what some of the next sessions are. So we have this part one, introduction to the dashboard, and then we have the Thursday, that Thursday was supposed to be up at the top in part one. And then we have the customized training that's coming up for town energy committees that will be organized by Rob Fish. And then a presentation to town managers and a fall planning and zoning forum presentation for planners in October and November. And then again, at the annual VCAN conference, we'll have another hands-on demonstration there. So are there any questions that anybody has?
Linda, we have a question that came in on a private chat. In the part two webinar, could you give some more detail about what's the difference between what we saw today and what you will present in the next webinar?
Yeah, so in the next webinar, Getting the Most Out of the Dashboard, we will be hearing from a number of you. We already have been collecting responses from several of you that are asking to go into more detail, for example, on how to get the actions for the municipalities, how to begin setting goals and using some of these tools to help you track your goals, how to use the Atlas at a more detailed level to serve your goals. So that's basically what we're trying to do, is hear from you on what are the biggest questions you still have on using the dashboard, and ensuring that you know how, as an energy committee, the additional data and tools you'll have access to.
Lisa has asked a question on how you will capture off-grid projects since they don't need a CPG.
Excellent question. Thank you. Those need to be, and let's see, I'm going to go back into here on the site itself. In the Energy Atlas, I'm hoping you're seeing this. Is everybody seeing this? Yeah. The dashboard page.
You need to share your.
I need to share my screen. Sorry, this is me not knowing how to do this. Going to desktop, back here. Okay, so now do you see it? Okay, so in the Energy Atlas, this is really important. You can add a new site. For all non-CPG sites, we really want to collect that. That is some information that the state has no idea how many off-grid sites there are, and that's really important information. So you click on Add a Site, and it will walk you through all of, if it, say, it might be ground-mounted PV, fixed rack, and then you go and you either select your location, I have my location in there, or you create, which is what you'll have to do, create a new location. If you're creating a new location, you go down here and you say, is it a residential one? Is it a farm one? Is it a business one? If it's a residential one, you add the site name, and up will pop once you've completed this whole set, and it's not that much, it takes about 2 minutes to do. It will be sent to us for approval. We'll approve it, and it will pop up on your community in the Atlas. So you'll have a new site that's added. If you're in Williston, your site will be added in Williston. So that was one question.
Thank you, Lisa. And I just don't get worried, guys. I'm going to jump around on the questions a little bit just to sort of group them together. So we have questions on transportation, on certain kinds of transportation, and on the data. So specifically on the data, Linda, how is transportation data acquired from the towns? And that was from Fran Putnam.
Yeah, no, that's a great question too. So going back to the data on my community, when you have transportation data, let me just go into here so we can illustrate. The data on transportation and on heat is not specific to every community because we don't have that data right now. What we do have is statewide data and a number of assumptions that are used both nationally and at the state level, and that's contained in the underpinning spreadsheets that go below this, that are divided into 5 categories of towns. And that explanation of how that works is in this data assumptions and methodologies. Because right now, that's all we can do is divide it into the 5 categories of towns. And those 5 categories are large cities, to the extent that we have those in Vermont, small cities, rural towns, resort towns, and I forget what the 5th one is, but they're divided into 5 town categories because we know from past data history that transportation use is quite different between a rural town, for example, and a Burlington, for example. And so we use those underpinning assumptions. If the town has better data, then we will work with each of you, and that's why we're only working with 15 of you right now. If you have better data on transportation that is done than what we have through census and through the Department of Transportation and through Efficiency Vermont, then we can change those underlying spreadsheets to reflect exact data in your town. But right now, it's based on, we do know how many vehicles are registered in your town. We do know all of that kind of information. And I did see, I think, a question that was related to airplane use earlier. Under the actions, we absolutely have reduced airline travel as one of the actions that you can pursue under transportation. So if you're looking at transportation actions taken, there's air travel down there. So if you see that, that's one that nobody's entered, but we're hoping to give people the idea that transportation isn't just about purchasing an efficient vehicle. It is, but it's also about biking and walking, about public transport, and absolutely about air travel and car sharing and that sort of thing.
Barry from MEAC has a question clarifying registration. Does the Energy Committee need to have registered for individual committee members to register?
No, absolutely not. You guys, we're really hoping that what you're going to do as soon as you're done with this webinar is you're going to rush back to your computer and you're going to register as individuals, because anybody can register as an individual. That's what I have up there. And you can encourage friends, families, students, whatever, to register as individuals.
Sally Miller would like to know, she weatherized in 2013. Should we add that info?
Absolutely. We have, so when you're adding an action, let's see, I'll go show you here. If you're adding an action, you can see it on the page? Okay, so if you're adding an action, did I do that? Sorry. I have to go back and share my desktop. I'm sorry. I was demonstrating and nobody was seeing anything. Okay,
so excited.
I know, I get so excited. So when you're adding an action, I'm going to go back to what we do. On the Actions tab, you go to Add a New Action, and when you're in that action, you create your location, or if you've already created a location, you select that location. That's my home. Wait, what was she asking?
Weatherization.
Oh, yeah, the weatherization.
Backdated.
So I go to Heat, Save Heat, and Weatherization. Here is where you backdate, down here. And you have the option of clicking on the year to backdate. So you have backdate to 2014 or 2013, or I have the option of doing the month or day to backdate. So that's where you do it. And then if you want to keep track, you go up to your account, and it will tell you in your account, under Actions, you can see on the ones that I entered, I went back to 2013, or 2010. I actually went back to 2010 because I want to keep track of the things we've been doing all along. So, you know, we got a hybrid car then, we installed our PV, then we did our air leaks, which we probably should have done first, but we didn't. And then onward. So that's helping me and my husband keep track of what we've been doing.
Thank you, Sally. We have from Tyler Yandau, is there a list of community outreach tools for Energy Committee?
Community outreach tools. Well, the best resources that are available are those at VCAN. And they have great outreach tools at VCAN. And so if you go to, for your town, this leads you to the resources that are at VCAN. But in addition to that, what we are going to be working with you on, and Rob will be bringing this to you when we do the face-to-face meetings with each of the energy committees, are the checklists that go through each of the actions for a town, not for an individual. We have very different actions for a town. that are checklists that go through each of the things that a town could consider doing. And we've drawn those checklists together from resources such as Efficiency Vermont, Vital Communities, VCAN, et cetera. So yes, those are sort of the next steps in setting out priorities going forward. The other thing to mention, which I think many of you who are coordinators have received from Rob, is the button-up grants, which are the very simple grant application is due this Friday. And Rob has sent out a number of suggestions to energy committees on what you could do to apply for those grants. They're $2,500 worth of grants, and we're working in partnership with Efficiency Vermont on that. And they're very excited to have you incorporate the dashboard into those grant proposals. So that would be a way of keeping track of some of the things that you're doing. But Rob can follow up with you with more specific ideas, and that's what he's hoping to have conversations with each of the committees about.
Sally Miller has a question. Can energy committees interactions of other community members?
Yes. It's a little bit different. As long as you enter that action related to that person, meaning that you would need to register that person. That's something that we asked in our South Burlington Energy Committee too. And one of the ideas that we came up with is that a lot of people may not be comfortable sort of entering something right away, or they may not be comfortable with the technology. So we said on our Energy Committee that we would take down their information on paper, and then we would go and register them and then show them how that works. And if they're uncomfortable with it, we can always delete it. You can always delete a registration or an action. You will have control over that. But a lot of people will, once they see their name and their action up there, they'll be like, oh, this is easier than I thought. So that's what we decided we would do with our button-up grant in the South Burlington Energy Committee. So yes, you can, but it's supposed to be entered linked to that person's name and their email address. Any other questions? All right. Oh, and Rob just shared some ideas for the button-up grant for those of you who didn't look in the chat room there. Sounds like we don't have any other questions. I just want to remind people to sign up for the next webinar because we will be going more into detail on some of the more complex of the tools. If you have any suggestions on things that you want more information on, we would really appreciate that. And we will be following up with two things. One is the SurveyMonkey survey, and the second will be Rob Fish contacting each of your communities to do a hands-on webinar training. So thank you to everybody who has participated. Oh, I'm getting a signal from Elise. What does she say?
If you have any questions going forward about this, you can always reach out to Linda or myself or Rob. But if you want a general email box, Linda's showing that right now. That's dashboard@eanvt.org. That comes in and that basically flags your email as support for the dashboard. So we are checking that all the time. So we'll be able to get back to you during a business day. So just keep that in mind if you have people who have questions that are specific to the dashboard. But as always, since the special support is for your energy committees, feel free to reach out to whoever you can get a hold of. We are happy to help.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.